everybody, and welcome back to a new episode of the Nasty Talks. In today's episode, we are going to be talking with Natali. She is a certified life coach and she is studying to become a psychologist. She will be sharing a little bit of her professional knowledge and background and what she's working with on a daily basis. And we will also be talking about her private life. She has been in a polyamorous relationship in the past, and she will be sharing some details about that. So, without further ado, let's get started. Welcome, Natali, to the Nasty Talks.
Hi, Nicoletta. It's great to be here.
Nice. Let's start by you telling me something about yourself. Who are you?
I currently work as a life coach, and my topic is relationships, but I also do executive coaching. It really depends on what kind of client comes. Usually, females come with relationships questions, and male clients come with questions about their business or life-work balance, and so on. At the same time, I am studying to become a psychologist, and I'm a dancer. I love dancing. I love traveling, and I'm generally this kind of person who is hungry and curious about life. This is how I would describe myself.
Ah, that's so nice. You do so many things, so many different things. And also, I think it's really cool how you can combine, talking about relationships and at the same time talking about business. I think it's like very different fields, if you can say it like that.
As a professional in, let's say, mental health field, I actually understand that everything is connected and how we relate to our work life in the same way we can relate to our romantic life. And in the same way, we also can relate to friendships or family life and generally to life. So it's
Yeah.
all rooted in the personality, in experiences that the person had, in environment that the person grew up in. And what I've noticed definitely is that a person can come with one request about business, but then as we work in coaching, because it's a long-term process, we unravel different aspects of life, which are all connected, and it can be business, relationships, even purpose of life and legacy. And I would say that purpose and legacy are the deepest topics that all clients in the end come to, because this is what matters to, I think, every person.
Yeah, that is true. And coaching, how long do they stay in sessions for coaching? For how many, maybe months or years? How does that work?
Coaching is a long-term process, so I would say bare minimum is 3 months, but bare minimum,
Yeah.
because in 3 months, which is about 8 sessions, it's when you just, let's say, clean up, like you tidy up. I don't want to say chaos in life, but you tidy up your life, right?
Yeah.
And then based on this clean slate, you start building the foundation. And then when you have built the foundation, you dive deeper. This is why it's a fundamental long-term process. I would say 6 to 12 months is a very good period. I personally work only with 6 and 12 months. And then if a client wants to continue, obviously I continue. Because you see, I look at coaching as an investment. When the person invests, usually it's long term and it's to build a foundation for more free future, more prosperous future. The same with coaching, actually the same with everything in life. If you want to have long lasting relationships, you invest into long term, you connect, you look at it from different viewpoints. Same with self-awareness, because coaching is about self-awareness. Coaching is about upgrading your life. And really, if a person wants to live with alignment with their core values and true desires and living based on their own created scenario, not what has been given to them, then it's definitely an investment.
I see and I understand that that is actually quite important for a lot of people to have this kind of idea of, okay, who am I and what am I going to do in this life and how should I start this? So I think maybe a lot of people come for advice when it comes to starting to build their life the way they want it to be, right?
Here, I definitely want to return back. This is what coaches do. We hear and then we return something back.
Yeah.
I heard advice, and every professional certified coach when we hear word advice, we definitely return it back because coaches do not give advices. People might want to come to me with advice, but I never do give it because this is not how it works. If I give advice, it means I direct a client somewhere. It doesn't help them develop independence, strong core, and self awareness. My main backbone of my whole process, my whole work as a coach is to help a client become independent, think for themselves, feel for themselves, decide for themselves based on what they want. So I never give advice. I only ask questions and highlight what they already have in them.
Okay. So I think this is what everybody or anybody that would want to take some coaching sessions will probably have now in mind. That is not about advice. It's not that they are coming to a session and they will be told what to do. It's mainly about them figuring out themselves with a little bit of maybe guidance. Can you call it
Exactly.
guidance?
It's exactly guidance. When I just went into coaching, I was calling my coach my guiding star. You know, when you're
Okay.
in the
Yeah.
dark and there is a very bright star, it
Yeah.
doesn't tell you where to go, but it just highlights the path.
Yeah.
Or you can say coaches are lighthouses.
Okay. Yeah.
They highlight the whole area and you know where to go. That's how it works. And if we were to summarize what we said, coaching is a long-term process because it's fundamental and it builds your core, your self-awareness, and it's not about advice. And it's again connected to self-awareness.
Yeah, that is very interesting. And that is very, I think, important for people to also know. I didn't know. So it's really nice also for me to know.
I also want to add something that
Yes.
was originally in my head. Lately, I had some events in my life where I communicated with a lot of people, and it was a certain community. People were exchanging similar ideas.
Yeah.
And I realized that many people do not like the fact that coaching or therapy, for example, is a long-term process and they don't see it as an investment. And many people
Okay.
want a magical wand or a quick fix to solve their problems in 1, 2 sessions. And I understand why it happens because this is how our brain is wired to find the quickest solution. But unfortunately, it doesn't work because it doesn't help you build the system. And I realized that actually I look at coaching as just the way of living. It doesn't mean that the person needs to stay in coaching forever. No, it's not the case at all. Or in therapy forever, it also is not the case. But it is like a habit, like brushing your teeth is healthy for you. Working on your mental tidiness and understanding of the self is kind of like brushing your teeth. It's a habit that you develop, it's a habit of investing in yourself and growing. This is how I see it. So I definitely do not see a problem in long term coaching or therapy. This is how it should be.
Yeah, in my personal life, I have done therapy and I loved it, and I would still do it again. And I will probably start again at some point because I feel it's so nice to just put your thoughts out there and just talk with somebody that actually has a background into it. And you kind of have that feeling, okay, I'm safe with this person. I'm safe. I can say whatever, I can do whatever. And somehow I'm going to get to a solution to my problem.
Safety is definitely a big topic, and maybe we should record a whole different like podcast episode about how to choose the right specialist, be it therapist or coach. And I know about both because I studied to become a therapist, and
Yeah.
I am in therapy for 7 years myself. Since we're talking about relationships is my biggest or has ever been my biggest question that I like to progress on in my life. And there is such a nice growth I've noticed over the course of 7 years, and it's definitely worth it. Like relationships I used to have 7 years ago, or I didn't have any relationships, and
Yeah.
relationships I have now, friendships, relationships with myself, first off, with
Yeah.
my parents, with my loved ones. We will get into polyamory again.
Yeah.
It's such a next level. It feels like I'm flying.
Yeah, I understand you. And definitely we should have an episode about coaching and therapy and how to find like the best therapist for each person and each problem and situation that they have. That would be really interesting. Okay, then let's get into polyamory. Can you tell me a little bit about your relationship background or sex background?
All right. So it's very new for me, and I would say it's almost therapeutic because I have been experimenting with my sexuality for the past 2 years. I've been a bit more than 2 years now, and I always mention it and I always talk about it freely in my normal life conversations with my friends or currently with my partner. He knows about my past, but I never shared it online. Like, I never
Okay.
shared it with my followers on Instagram, and I didn't dive deep into it yet. So it's very interesting for me to finally talk about it openly, and I'm very excited to bring this topic up. So, if I start from the very beginning, I always had very weird relationships in a way that I always knew what I wanted. I had an idea of how I want to feel in a relationship, what I want my partner to be, but it never matched with who I actually was getting into relationships with. And I can definitely say I had many abusive relationships mentally, thanks God, not physically. But yeah, there was always a mismatch between who I was falling for and who I wanted to date. The root cause of it obviously lies in childhood. This I can maybe talk about in an abuse episode
Yes, for
because
sure.
scenarios and childhood and personal boundaries, it's all related. You see how
Yeah.
in coaching and therapy, everything is related. You
Yeah,
start
it is.
somewhere and then you totally dive deep into another topic.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah, you know what? Maybe I should say this for context. And I'm very open about it in normal life, but online I've never shared it. So I
Okay.
was sexually abused when I was 16, and it was a very rough experience. And because I didn't know what it really was, and I was blaming myself so much, I never even understood it was that I was raped at the age of 16. Later in therapy, when I was 21, and my therapist, who was very skilled, she started seeing some patterns and asking me questions. And through her questions, we basically got to this realization that this is what happened with me. And in the moment of when it was happening, it was so rough that I know that part of me dissociated completely. This is how psyche works. There is a protective mechanism of psyche to not feel pain. So when something so intense and so drastic happens, psyche just dissociates. It's like you just split in your
Yeah.
head and it feels like it's happening with you, but not with you at the same time. So this is what happened to me, and it was a very tragic event because it definitely influenced how my life after 16 years, like after I was 16, how it was. Before I was flirty, playful, communicated with men. I was in professional sports, and there were a lot of teammates that were guys, and we always used to hang out together. I felt always very safe. So when I met this person and it was a random person, it's not a family abuse because usually sexual abuse happens within families.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it will be so traumatic to me. I didn't expect he will abuse me, but it happened. And after that, first I shut down myself completely. Then I was feeling a lot of shame and guilt, and my body and my psyche were reacting intensely to connection with men. I wasn't able to have sex. I didn't have sex, I think, for 7 years after this happened, up until I was 23, probably. And obviously, I didn't enjoy sex.
Yeah.
Although I need to say that I was very sexual from the very young age, and it's definitely part of who I am. There is this concept in sexology called sexual constitution. It can be strong, average, or let's say like very mild or weak. And it's not good or bad. None of this is good or bad, but it basically determines by genes and your hormones how much sex your body needs. This is why there are some people who are more adventurous, more horny, and they have higher need for sex, and it's not libido. I think we need to talk about these two things. Yeah, and then there are people who have average sexual constitution, then they might need sex, I don't know, like a few times a week, maybe a few times every 2 weeks. And then there are people who do not need sex that much. And it doesn't mean the quality is bad, it just means that their body doesn't need much sex. And it's a scientific term based on your genes and hormones. So
Okay.
I have a very strong sexual constitution. I was very curious and adventurous and flirty since I was a very young child. I remember it vividly. And when I was a young teenager, I remember having all these fantasies and feeling really horny. But then, because I had this pattern of unhappy relationships where it didn't match, and then this traumatic event happened to me at 16, it kind of wiped all my sexuality and curiosity out. And when I finally worked with a therapist for many years on another topic, I had eating disorders. Sexuality and eating disorders are connected. So yeah, I worked initially on my eating disorder, then relationships came along, and then, you know, this rape came out, and then I kept on working on relationships when the topic of eating disorders became not so acute anymore. And then by the time I was 25, 24, 25, I finally started feeling like, okay, I cannot live in my shell all this life, because sexuality, touch, you know, caress, embrace, all of it is very important for me. Touch is my love language, main love language. And I started kind of like going out, seeing, testing my boundaries, maybe having like a one night stand here and there, and trying to see if I get attached to the person or no, and all of that.
Yeah.
And at 25, I met my ex-boyfriend, with whom sex was great. He was very sexually well educated, understood female body, understood the cycles of pleasure of female, like how female body and mind works. And with him, I was able to let go, relax, and I experienced my first orgasm with a man. So until 25, I thought I'm a broken woman.
Mhm.
I couldn't even enjoy sex. It was that bad because my body was reacting so strongly to this, you know, interaction.
Yeah.
And this is where I felt like, oh wow, I actually love it so much. Oh, I forgot this part of me that was so curious when I was a teenager, and I finally felt more um, ownership over my sexuality. Funny enough, this relationship was very toxic. And
Oh.
he was also shaming my sexuality. We were
Oh.
both dancers. I danced kizomba and he also danced kizomba. So he was also very possessive. Oh, why did you dance so long with this
Mhm.
guy? La 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 la. He was shaming my sexuality basically. And when we broke up finally, and I left him, I promised myself that I will not get into any relationships, like serious committed relationships, until I understand myself. Because at 25, I felt like I don't even know anymore how I should behave. What is it in me that makes me choose abusive partners or people that are not on the same level with me, you know?
Yeah.
And this is when I also granted myself a permission to explore my sexuality. All the wildest dreams and fantasies I have ever had, I allowed myself to experience it. At the same time, I was working with a therapist on my shame. Shame and sexuality are two, it's the essence of everything.
Yeah.
And
I've
there,
also I've also heard the same, that shame is one of the most powerful feelings that you can feel, even more
mm,
powerful than love.
yeah,
Yeah.
and definitely when I worked through my shame and I understood where it comes from, and I understood that it's not mine, it's something that was basically installed in my understanding, in my psyche, and in
Yeah.
my view of the world, and it's not mine. In reality, deep inside, I believe something else. So it all started with, okay, so I go on Tinder and I will try to have casual sex. I will try to have one night stands. I will allow myself to be a slut. And I even, it will sound probably very interesting, but I call myself a proud slut because I celebrate and empower my sexuality, my femininity, and this sexual drive.
That's amazing.
Right now, I'm not ashamed, and I also wanted to add a little coaching element here. If the listeners get triggered when I say I'm a proud slut or I'm not ashamed, I enjoy my body, I enjoy sex, I like this, I like that, if it triggers something in them, it doesn't mean I am bad or I am naughty or I'm a slut. It means it's something in them that they have, but they neglect and suppress and they are ashamed of. So
I,
whenever we react, it's really not about the object of reaction, the object that made you be triggered, but it's about you.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense,
So
actually.
alert, alert. If during this podcast or any other podcast you feel triggered or you feel like you want to judge, look into yourself and ask why. Why do you feel this? And where does it come from? And is it really yours? Or is it just societal pressure? Or is it just something that your parents taught you? See if it really resonates. And if it's
Yeah.
yours and if it resonates with you, it's fine as well, because we are all different. Yeah, so I started experimenting and I always wanted to try BDSM, different kinky things, not only monogamous sex one on one, but also threesomes. And I always wanted to go to a sex party and experience how it is. And I just, with time and with experiments, with meeting different men, having experienced not very pleasant situations, unmet expectations, miscommunication, I learned about myself, what I really like and what I dislike, what is essential for me and what is not, and also how to basically state what I want and be comfortable that this is something that is suitable for me and this is something that is not, for example. So it's about personal boundaries really and communication skills. So like, let's say I started discovering my sexuality in spring 2020, summer 2020. And by November 2020, I felt like I'm ready to experience sex with a female because during summer I had a few encounters where it was threesome with me and two other men, and it was very messy, and I can also talk about it. It's very funny.
Okay, yeah.
Right now or later?
A bit later.
Deal. So in November 2020, I really felt like, oh, I'm ready to try sex with a female or a threesome with two female and one male. And the moment I sent this into universe, I said, oh, I'm ready. In about 2 weeks, I received a message from a person that I knew distantly. We met in like common networking events with some people that we both knew. And we started talking about, okay, what were we doing in life? And I said that I study psychology now and I'm very much into sexology. And he's like, oh, sexology, this is interesting. And this is how our communication started. And I got to know that him and his wife have always been polyamorous ever since they met. And it's been 10 years that they are together. And they were looking for a woman to build something deeper than one night stand. They said they are looking for a unicorn.
Oh.
And what they meant by unicorn was that they want to build this like sexual but also friendship relationship, to explore together, to travel together, to meet up, to communicate. And I just went into this. I met him first. I was very attracted to him, and I met her and I was attracted to her, and it just started. And then we traveled together to a few countries. We were meeting regularly. We had a lot of fun. And I remember while I was in this polyamorous relationship with them, we were three of us. I also had other lovers, male lovers on the side.
Yeah.
But I can say that this relationship was the deepest and the longest. We were together for about like 11 months. I felt so free and so accepted and so myself because I was living out of the box of the society. And I learned so much from them. My main question when I entered this relationship was to feel if I'm really polyamorous or I'm monogamous. But as I was with them and as I was going deeper into exploration of my sexuality, I understood it's not black or white. It's not either or, and there is no right or wrong.
Yeah.
As everything in life, it's just a spectrum. It's a scale where one extreme is definitely clear polyamory, and another extreme is traditional monogamy. And all people are somewhere in between. And every percent of them being monogamous, more or more polyamorous, is all right. This is what each person needs to figure out for themselves. So if I was fluctuating between, oh, am I polyamorous, am I monogamous? By the end of our relationship with this couple, I realized that I am more monogamous in my core. And for me, this was a very interesting experience where I gained so much, and I felt my sexuality even more, and I embraced it and I owned it.
Yeah. How come it ended?
It ended for this very reason, that I understood I need more substance, I want more focus, and I understood that I enjoy monogamous relationship, sexual and romantic now. Yeah, that was just a stage.
Yeah.
I finally, let's say my pendulum swing, where it was swinging from side to side, it finally stabilized somewhere in the middle, and I understood, okay, this is what I am. And for me, what I am or who I am or what I like is, okay, I want to build really deep relationship, monogamous, more on the traditional side, with potential to build a family, because this is what I've always wanted. And I want to get married. This is very important for me. And I want to have partner for life. But I want to have this edge where sexuality, my sexuality and his sexuality is in sync. Yeah. So ideally, I understood that I want to find this partner with whom we are committed and dedicated to growing this relationship together. But it doesn't mean our sex is boring. And it doesn't mean that our sex is only in one way.
Yeah, I understand you, because sex is very important in a relationship, and obviously there's other factors that are very important as well. But if you can get a mix of everything, averagely to high, to have everything that you want from a partner, that's where, the relationship can actually function.
Exactly.
And now you have a you're in a monogamous relationship with your partner.
Yes.
Yeah. For how long have you been together now?
It's been 7 months. And funny enough, it started as a one night stand.
Oh.
I had no expectations. I was traveling and I was sleeping with multiple partners at that time. It wasn't, let's say, mm, threesome, foursome, or this kind of swinging type of relationship, but I was having sex with multiple male partners, and
Yeah.
it was more casual, and he was just one of them. And little did I know,
But
where
I
one
think,
night stand.
yeah, but I think that's how it starts most of the times, when you don't pay attention to it, when you don't think about it. That's how, it just sneaks up.
I believe for us, it was having zero expectations towards each other. I
Mhm.
was myself, he was himself. We were very honest with each other. Communication was very deep and sincere, and there were no expectations. No heavy weight of you have to decide. We were just going with how we felt. It allowed us to have space to really get to know each other and deepen the connection. And at some point, as we were communicating more and more, I still had one or two partners, and little by little or slowly they started just all falling off because I didn't feel like there is enough substance, and I didn't feel like it is safe to have deeper relationship with these people. And this is something I definitely want to talk about because it's related to kinky sex, and BDSM. And yeah, I just realized I don't want to see multiple people anymore. I want to focus on one. I remember very well when I broke up with my last sexual partner before my boyfriend, while still talking to my boyfriend and not being exclusive. I remember when I broke up and I was thinking, damn, now I need to go on all these sex apps again, search for somebody again, and start this whole process again. And I was like, oh, this is so tiring. I cannot do it
Yeah.
anymore. I want more substance and focus and meaning. And this is when I shared what I felt with my current boyfriend. And he asked, would you mind if we're exclusive? And I said, actually, this is what I want. I would like to be exclusive with you. And for the first time in 2 years, I went exclusive with someone, and
Oh,
it turned up to be a very deep, very meaningful relationship, the best I've ever had in my life. And I can tell that my experiences of exploring sexuality, and especially polyamory, it helped me to fine tune my communication skills so much, where I'm able to deliver my message in a non-violent way, no matter how negative it can be or how different it can be from what my partner thinks. We were able to talk about preferences, and even in situations of conflict where there is a misunderstanding, we know how to communicate because I learned all of this from polyamorous relationships.
yeah.
Because in polyamory, you need to really master the skill of communication, because it's not only two people involved. In my case, it was three people, then we were four, then we were five.
Oh, yeah.
In the last moments of my polyamory with this particular couple who introduced me to other people as well. And when the relationship in polyamory is not based on this exclusive right to have sex with your partner, it has to be based on something else, which is much deeper. Because when sex is out of equation and it's not an anchoring point, you need to have similar values, outlook to life, communication needs to be on point,
Yeah.
because you need to be able to talk about boundaries and what is allowed and what is not allowed in such vulnerable topic as sex. And
Yeah.
then there should be really sincere interest towards each other, because you choose to be with this person when you don't have to choose.
Yeah, I know that in a monogamous relationship, there are two ways in which you could cheat on somebody. It could be like physical cheating or emotional cheating. How is it in polyamory? Because since sex is out of the equation, like you are free to have sex with whoever you want to, then the emotional part, how do you deal with that?
In each couple who is polyamorous, there are their own rules and
Yeah.
own boundaries. They discuss it all in detail. And I even know that there are people I have a close friend of mine who is polyamorous mentally, so she can love platonically many people at the same time and have deep relationships with many people at the same time, regardless of their gender. Sexually doesn't mean she wants to be polyamorous. Sexually, she wants to be only with one person. And this is also polyamory. So there are so many configurations in polyamory world that whatever two people in this relationship agree to, or three people agree to, it is valid for them, and it's how it works for them. And also when it comes to infidelity, I think it's not about how many types of infidelity there is, it's about what a person perceives as an infidelity.
Yeah, what is their definition, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because it really does depend. But okay, tell me a little bit more about this threesome that you had with two men.
You know, I've noticed that threesome with two men, it's really messy.
Yeah.
What I need to say about threesomes and generally polyamorous relationships or sex parties or swinger clubs, and what I say is only my perception because I know people see it differently and people get excited with different stimuli. But in my view, these polyamorous relationships or sex, threesomes, foursomes, swinger clubs, they're way more romanticized and idealized because this taboo and topic that people do not allow themselves to explore. They fantasize as it's fireworks and it's super intense and it's super naughty, which it can be. But oftentimes it is more work, more communication, harder to focus, and this is how it can get messy. And when I noticed there are two men, I believe in this configuration where there are two men and one woman, two men need to be like one team. And their mission, common mission, should be to give pleasure to a woman. So they need to work like partners on one goal. But oftentimes I noticed that for men, it's very hard to sync and they start to compete with each other, or they cannot focus in the moment. Performance and anxiety is definitely a big thing.
Yeah.
And in the end, it becomes about, oh, I'm gonna fuck her harder to show whatever, or I'm gonna do this. And it just becomes this chaos where nobody feels what anyone feels. It's just about this like very physical, almost mechanical movement, and it's not pleasant. And this is what I had with my threesome experiences with men that I had two times. And then I realized, oh, maybe I don't need it.
No,
Maybe I'm idealizing it myself in my head.
yeah, well, it maybe depends because you've only had one experience, right? So it
No, I
could
had a
be.
few.
Oh, you had a few. Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember, was it two or three? Two definitely, maybe three, because I had them more in the beginning of my exploration of
Yeah.
sexuality. Let's say 2 years ago. I don't remember that much. But yeah, that was the feeling. And it just kept on repeating.
I understand. And it could be maybe because men, and it's like how they're built, most of the times they have this very toxic perception of other men. It's like, I have to be the dominant one. I am the man. And then if there's another man next to him, it's kind of like, okay, there's a competition. Rather, when you have a threesome with two women and one man, then it is not the same. Like women can explore each other as well, but men have this phobia of not being homosexual, not being labeled homosexual, so then they don't do it.
It might be that, definitely. What I've also noticed, I mean, when my threesome grew into foursome, it was two men and two women. I saw that when two men are more experienced with this multiple people outcome or scenario, they're more comfortable and they know already what to do on a technical level.
Yeah.
They know even how to move, how to give space, even the like sex positions, they matter as well, right? Because it's about comfort. Many people go into threesomes and agree to have these experiences because they're curious, and it's normal as well. I am all for discovering sexuality in all possible ways. So when they don't really know what it is, and maybe they idealize it in their head, like I said before, it's not entirely what they imagined, and expectations are not met, and they are not able to deal with it in this very moment.
Yeah.
And it turns out the way it turns out.
Yeah, because they make these expectations, they overthink it maybe also. And then if it's not as they've imagined, it makes sense that it doesn't. Yeah, they are not happy, let's say, in the moment. But in your polyamorous journey and relationship that you had, what was the hardest thing for you to deal with? What was the thing that you were like, okay, this was not as expected?
It's a good question. I cannot say I had any expectations. And if I had any expectations, for me, it turned out to be much better than I expected
Oh,
because I'm still friends with these people. And
yeah.
even if we don't have an intimate relationship anymore, our bond was built on similar values and outlook to life and similar ways of communication. So it was really much better, and I learned so much from them, especially feeling myself like everything I want is fine. It's normal. I'm not weird, and it's safe. I'm accepted, and I can express whatever I feel I need to express in in a non-violent way. I emphasize this non-violent communication. This is what I've learned in polyamory because I don't point my finger at someone and I don't sound like I'm offended and I don't say that they're idiots or something. I say, okay, this is the situation, which is a fact. So I state a fact. Then I say, okay, this is how I feel in this situation. What do you feel? Or I see maybe you feel this. Let me know if it's true. And this is what I would like to be changed, or this is the outcome I would like to have. And in this way, when a person is attentive to you, they can really understand that you're not attacking them, but it's about how can we make our relationship or sex better.
Yeah, how can we understand each other?
Yeah, because I learned what really defines healthy relationship from unhealthy relationship is that there is one intent to come closer, even in conflict situations.
Yeah.
So even when we had misunderstandings, our intention was not to point finger and say, oh, you're an idiot, or you just behaved like I don't know what. Our intention was to say, okay, this is how I feel, this is how you feel, let's find common ground because we need to make it work. And this is a great, great skill that I use so much in my relationship right now because we are all different. No matter how similar we are, all people are different. Our perception is different, our experiences are different. And this not non-violent communication, it really gives space for a person to not react, but to actually listen.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
that's very important. It is true that communication is key in any kind of relationship, but I think in this kind of relationship is really essential because otherwise it cannot function. But if there was an error between communication between you and your partners, have you experienced situations in which you were jealous, maybe?
In fact, I redefined my understanding of jealousy completely.
Okay.
Jealousy oftentimes always comes from insecurity. There is one thing where right now, for example, I understand that I do not want my partner to have other partners and I want him to be committed to me. This is what I truly desire and this is my value at the moment. And it's very different to I am jealous, I am possessive because I'm insecure. Because every step you take or every sight you give to another woman or man makes me feel like I'm not worthy enough, I'm not good enough, or you neglect me, or you betray me. So it's about insecurity, right?
Yeah.
In this relationship, I felt zero jealousy. I felt so loved, so my horizon widened so much, and I redefined personal boundaries, jealousy, communication for myself. And when I allowed myself to be who I truly am and healthily express who I am and set my boundaries, jealousy vanished. Because I know if something doesn't work for me in this relationship, I don't have to be negative and jealous. Or the moment I feel this or I feel any discomfort, it's time for me to leave because something is not working anymore. Maybe we drifted, which is fine. You see my point?
Yeah, I see.
Yeah.
Uh,
Because oftentimes people just keep on banging their head in the wall, whereas they had to leave already years ago or months ago.
yeah.
When there is jealousy, oftentimes it's correlated with this desire to change your partner. You cannot change anyone. That's the
Yeah.
truth. So for me, your question was, okay, what maybe went wrong or what was the expectation that was not met and why it stopped? Because I just stopped feeling like it's relevant in my life or this is what I truly want. There was no drama. We just spoke about what I feel and how they feel, and we are still very dear friends and we keep meeting each other for dinners. We play cards together. I even traveled with them after I wasn't sexual with them anymore. yeah, I just felt like the stage of my life is closed, and I'm ready to experience something else. That's how it was. No drama, no jealousy, no pointing fingers, no arguments.
I understand. It comes from such a healthy point, and I think it's so hard to do something like that, to say to yourself, okay, I am not able to do this anymore. I can't be in this relationship anymore. And I think for many people, if they have feelings and they have all these fears, okay, I really like this, I really want this to continue, but there's this thing that I'm missing in it. Maybe I can fix it, maybe we can fix it. And people still keep going in this spiral, kind of like, we're gonna make it, we're gonna fix it, we're gonna make it work. And I think that's why they don't leave.
Here, I really want to circle back to the beginning of
Yeah.
our podcast. It's all about self-awareness. When a person really knows what their values are, what they really want and what they really do not want, and where their boundaries lie, they do not choose those who are not fitting this criteria. And I see so much in my coaching or generally in life where people are not looking at their deep values or deal breakers or what they really want and what kind of person they want to see them near themselves, but they just go for what is available. Or there are many reasons why people choose somebody who is not really suitable for them, and it again goes back to self-awareness, childhood, old scenarios that all of we live, and something that we were conditioned to. It's very hard to let go of this idea that I can choose, but we all can. We all can. I see so many women, with suppressed sexuality, and so many men with suppressed sexuality and relationships, and so many men, not men, more women, but men as well, women lived through harassment or sexual abuse. It's not being talked about. And it's very sad because it really determines the whole course of life, sexuality, and relationships in the future, because it's all about guilt, suppression, shame. And this is where people do not know which partner to choose.
Yeah.
They go in a relationship to fill the void, to play the certain scenario, and I don't judge it. It's all subconscious. I've been there too. My path has been very long. It's been 7 years, And it's really, I will agree with you. Yes, it's hard to reach this point because self-growth is probably the toughest thing we will ever do. As a coach and as a future psychotherapist, I'm not going to tell you, it's all going to be roses and unicorns. In my therapy, sometimes it feels like I'm peeling my skin off because it's so intense and so deep, but every minute of it is worth it. I mean, I'm very proud of relationships I can have right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, from everything that you know now about your sexuality and going through this polyamorous stage in your life and threesomes and everything you've experienced, what advice would you give to a younger you that would probably not know all of this?
Advice. I do not want to give advice, to be honest.
Okay.
Maybe it's my professional deformity because my path was beautiful. I do not say that I mean, by no means I'm saying abuse is necessary to get to the point where I am. In fact, I believe we do not need to suffer. If I could, and if I say there is a legacy for me, if I could help people see that they do not need to suffer and they do not need to live in destruction, but they can live their wholesome, most amazing life and fulfill their entire potential and fly to the stratosphere with how amazing they are, that would be my legacy. So, did I have to live through all this shit I lived through? No, I do not wish it upon anyone. But my path was beautiful because it's a path of growth. And especially when I started exploring my sexuality 2 years ago, I kissed many frogs. But it allowed me to understand that, okay, this is what I do not want. And next time I communicated it, I will bring a very simple example, and it's my real life example. I was brought up as a good girl, and I believe in Slavic or Eastern European culture, it is very common, and I'm not going to surprise anyone. But yeah, I was brought up with this whole idea of being obedient, not saying too much, not expressing how I truly feel, not being confrontational, avoiding conflicts, and all of that. And it definitely transferred into my sex life. The fact of abuse in my life, it's the essence of how bad my boundaries were and how suppressed I was. But when I started exploring, I still had this layer of not saying where I felt like I wanted to say. And in my case, in the very beginning, it was men giving me oral sex. I mean, it's not the most important thing, as in I don't get off like this if I really go into details, but it tells me about their readiness to immerse into this whole experience and accept me for who I am. You know, it's about intimacy.
Yeah.
And this is what sex is about. And I was seeing this guy for about 3 weeks, and he was hot and he was sexy and he was dominant. And I was so drawn to him, but he was not giving me oral sex. And I was still agreeing to it. And every time I felt like, damn, I really want to feel it. You know, my experience would be so much brighter, so much better if I had this, or if he would go down on me. But I was kind of biting my own tongue and not saying that. And by the third week, in the middle of sex, I just exploded. And I said, I cannot do it anymore. I need you to go down on me. And I know that you will not do it because you don't like it. So it's over. And in the middle of sex, I took my clothes and I went. And I never saw this guy again. Did I really have to wait for 3 weeks? Did I really have to suppress myself so much? No. But this is the scenario I was brought up with, and it is my biggest lesson. Since then, on a very early stage of my communication when it comes to sex, I make it very clear that for me this is important. And if I see a slightest side of disgust or of doubt in the face of a man or in how they talk about it, I do not go for it. Never, ever again.
That is very interesting. Putting boundaries like that, really being straightforward with exactly what you want and nothing else, and not accepting anything less than that.
And here I also want to summarize it with my coaching experience and my own experience. Oftentimes people feel like there is not enough. We think from the standpoint of lack.
Yeah.
And I see many gorgeous women in my coaching practice are not willing or not ready to let go of their relationships that are no longer serving them and where they are suppressed because they think they will not find any better.
Yeah.
And this is very unfortunate. But in reality, when you learn about your own boundaries and you test them, and in your experience, you see that, okay, those who don't agree, they're not for me. Those who agree, experience with them is much more pleasant. All of a sudden, you start seeing life from the standpoint of abundance. There are many great people. It's just that you need to communicate well enough to recognize them or to make yourself visible for them.
Yeah, I see, because maybe you do have your boundaries, but if you don't communicate that, if you don't tell that to the person that you're on a date with, they will never know that you want this, 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 and this, and you don't want this, 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 and this. So then they will just assume what they want to assume about it. And then boom, you're in a relationship for 5 months and you feel like everything is crumbling. And yeah. So yeah,
5 months. 5 months is a good outcome.
Yeah,
I've had cases where it was 5 years. 5 years of life. That's a lot.
It is a lot, being unhappy or not being truly happy with yourself and with your partner. It is.
Having said that, I do not judge people staying for 5 years in these long relationships. I've been in an abusive relationship myself for, well, not for 5 years, but for a year. So I know how it is. And again, it all comes back to this oftentimes idea that, oh, I will not find any better, or how will I be alone?
Yeah.
But and it's also fine if a person is not mentally ready to leave the relationship yet, because we all need to live through whatever we need to live, to experience, to grow, to understand. And maybe sometimes some people will never understand and never grow. And it's very unfortunate, but it's their experience. But 5 years is a long time.
It is. It is a long time. But yes, it is life. And we all go through our experiences in our own time, I think. And it is something that we need to learn from at some point. Yes, but thank you very much for this talk. It was really, really interesting to talk about your personal life, and also to get a little bit of knowledge from what you are actually coaching and how you're helping people in your everyday life. It has actually helped me quite a lot now to understand some things, and I hope that it will help a lot of our listeners as well. So
I hope so too. Thank you so much for giving me space to express.
Yes. Thank you. And I will probably see you in another episode as well. For all the listeners that are looking forward to more information and more thoughts from Natali, she is going to come back.
Yeah, and definitely you can connect with me on social media.
Amazing. I'll link it down below to this episode so people can reach out. And thank you very much for being here. And until next time, stay nasty. Bye
Stay
bye.
nasty. Bye bye.
If you like this episode, make sure to subscribe to our channel to not miss any of our future episodes. And until next time, take care and stay nasty.